Let's unpack the impact that the social media ban in Australia for the under 16s will have psychologically on the under 16s. I'd mentioned earlier during our throw forward with Lulu Gabu that their neighbors, New Zealand, they don't have a ban. Other countries, other teenagers around the world, they don't have a ban. What impact will this have on the kids? Because as it stands, if you know that other kids and you've been exposed to this social media for years, now all of a sudden it's been taken away from you. Withdrawal symptoms are going to be one of the first things you experience. But then now you're going to Lulu Kapoor was like, yeah, now we'll have more children playing on the streets, playing outside, not on their phones. But let's unpack what impact that's really going to have. Australia's bold new social media ban for under 16s was meant to be a global blueprint for online child safety, but it's already showing some cracks. So we saw that a 13-year-old girl by the name of Isobel has exposed the system's biggest weakness, slipping past age checks in minutes by simply holding up a photo of her mother to the verification camera. No hacking, no tricks, just a loophole big enough to walk through. From the 10th of December, the ban is going to be in full effect. But there are kids that are already bypassing the system, trying to get back and get the social media platform or presence again. But what impact will this have on the under 16s? To help us unpack and to walk us through this journey, we are joined on the line by Mertha Nyamande, psychological trauma specialist and forensic psychology consultant, director of Insight Wellbeing. Mertha, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the Upside. Let's talk about the psychological impact that this social media ban will have on the teenagers, the under 16s.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is a very interesting piece of law that we can have. I think we find we are increasingly trying to legislate for moral issues. And this is very interesting because, there are certain things in this world that we're in. We want to embrace technology. We want to embrace all these advancements of AI and how these things make life easier. But I don't think we are understanding how the minds of human beings work. They're not as fast. We are generally habitual when it comes to a lot of things. We're creatures of a habit. We don't tend to easily switch to Yahoo or Google or whatever new thing that comes on the market. We want to warm up to things. We want to understand how are these things going to make life better for us. But with this, it comes with quite a lot of consequences, I would say, because mental health wise, I think we would find initially it will increase anxiety and depression in our children who were used to these social media platforms. To an extent, it had become an addiction. And again, when we're looking at an addiction, you can't just remove something that someone had been addicted to and say, well, it's banned, you can't use it anymore. You've got to walk them through the process. Psychologically, what does that mean for you not having something that you've relied on for so long? And physically as well. What's going to happen to the gadgets? Where are they going to be so that they can't use them? All those kind of things have a negative impact on especially our children who are starting to understand this complex life that we're living. Whilst there's this element of trying to safeguard them and prevent them from cyberbullying and all these unrealistic body image ideals, these are some of the things that authorities need to regulate and see how they can stop some of these negative images from being put out there, rather than actually stop children from accessing things. And you may also find the sleep quality of children may also be affected, or may have been affected, by the hyperconnectedness that they've gotten into. But again, just removing that. Over time, yes, it has positive health impacts, but on the immediate side of things, I think we'll find things get worse before they get better. And also looking at the self-esteem of these kids, these are some of the reasons why they felt safer online than actually being in a face-to-face social skill setting.
Okay, if I may just jump in there, because we have very limited time, but I'm just wondering out loud, are we actually looking at this problem sort of perhaps as a distraction, or are we covering up a much bigger problem? Because behavior is quite a difficult thing to deal with. I would imagine, because it requires us to look within, to be self-aware as a society. Use Australia as an example. Cost of living and housing is a huge crisis there. There are youth mental health strains that are in that country that many of us can relate to. Indigenous inequality is another one. So are we using or cushioning ourselves just with this little social media issue, instead of really at a government and policy making level, looking at what society looks like and fixing the societal problem instead of just focusing on social media? Do you think perhaps that's what many societies are grappling with?
Absolutely, and that's a very good understanding of the problem, because what you actually find is we look at these complex problems and we want to address them with a quick fix solution. But this is a tree that's been growing for 15 years, if we're looking at these teenagers. And it's bent a certain way, or it's leaning a certain way. You can't just wake up one day and say, I want to straighten it up this way. More than likely, you're actually going to break it than actually get the desired result. So we need to be very conscious of what problems are we trying to address, not just looking at the quick fix solutions. These are problems that are deep ingrained, that you may find, yes, our children are going more and more into anxieties over fear of missing out and all those kind of things. But the most important thing why they're ending up there is the one thing that we are not looking at. How do they end up there?
Yes.
Why do we end up having these kind of problems? What is society doing to these young minds?
Mertha, we're going to park it there for now, and we'll continue our conversation and wrap it up nicely right after we get our sports and business news. The voice of Mertha Nyamande, psychological trauma specialist and forensic psychology consultant director of Insight Wellbeing. We're talking about the impact of the Australian social media ban that it will have on the kids psychologically, and perhaps even addressing some bigger issues that are at play there as well. It's 30 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African time. Let's get the latest sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
We bet off with cricket news. Faye Tunnicliffe led the Proteas women to a 65-run victory over Ireland in the second T20 International at Boland Park in Paarl on Sunday. The win secured an unassailable 2-0 series lead for the hosts with one match remaining. The top-order batter struck 7 fours in her 51 of 42 deliveries as South Africa posted 201 for 5 from their 20 overs. With the ball, the Proteas women restricted Ireland to 136 for 3, despite an unbeaten 51 not out of 43 balls from Ola Prendergast, 4 fours, 1 6. Chloe Trion led the attack with figures of 2 for 24. Tunnicliffe says she's more happy to contribute for the team.
Yeah, really special. My goal has always been to contribute to the team, and I just wanted to do that meaningfully, and I'm glad that Suna and I could put like a pretty good foundation out. And then, I mean, the middle order was insane. They came in and just like whacked it all over. So, yeah, happy with that. Made him 50, hopefully a lot to come. But main thing, like I said, is to contribute.
On to football news. South African football legend Shaun Bartlett has set a challenge for current attacker Mohaung Kota to emulate him and score a brace at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Bartlett, who is the second all-time leading national team goal scorer with 29 goals, believes the current team has all the qualities to impress in North America next year.
So, I gave Mohaung Kota the challenge. I said to them, listen, I stopped playing 20 years ago. And I'm still second all-time leading goal scorer. I want you to break that record. I want you to score 2 goals in a World Cup. And he's taken the challenge. So Mahou knows exactly what he needs to do. First game, maybe even possible against Mexico. It's a repeat of 2010. And hopefully we can do the same also if we get Denmark, if they go all the way and make the group stage. So,
on to athletics and marathon. Kenyans John Korir and Jocelyn Jepkosgei won the Valencia Marathon, with the later crossing the line in a course record for the women's race. Jepkosgei stopped the clock at 2 hours, 14 minutes exactly, followed by compatriot Perez Jepchichir, 2 hours, 14 and 43 seconds, and Belgian Chloe Herbert, 2 hours, 20.38 seconds. Korir, meanwhile, was well clear of the men's field, crossing in 2 hours, 02.25 seconds, ahead of German Annamal Petros, 2 hours, 04.03 seconds, and Norwegian Kibrab Awet, 2 hours, 04.25 seconds. On to golf news. Norway's Christopher Rayton held his nerve to claim the Nedbank Golf Challenge title. Rayton began the final round with a commanding 5-shot lead, but faltered as Daniel Bradbury and Jaden Shaper closed the gap. A bogey at the 15th cut his advantage to just 1. The Norwegian steadied himself, paring his way home for a level par 71 to finish at 17 under and secure victory by a single shot. It marks Rayton's second win on the DP World Tour, with Bradbury and Shaper sharing second place just 1 stroke behind. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fidel Ngwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Channel Africa is evolving, and so are you. Stay connected wherever you are with our brand new website and mobile app. Stream your favorite shows, catch up on African news, culture, and conversations, all at your fingertips.
Africa is just a tap away.
Your world, your stories, now on the go.
Stay connected wherever you are.
Visit channelafrica.co.za or download the Channel Africa app today. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
35 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African time. Let's find out how the markets are moving by going straight to business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Debucho. Good afternoon. In our top business story this hour, South Africa's national oil company, PetroSA, has approved a deal to give Shell Offshore a 60% stake in its Block 2C off the country's west coast. If successfully concluded, the agreement will strengthen oil major Shell's exposure to the Orange Basin, which has become one of the world's most coveted exploration zones after major oil discoveries in neighboring Namibia. According to a short note under Petrosa's priority programs, the company had approved the farm-in deal, with Shell committing to a $25 million signing bonus and full cost carry of around $135 to $150 million for 3 wells. PetroSA holds 100% of Block 2C. South African Trade Unions Federation, COSATU, says it would like to see a shift from austerity cuts to enable the social relief of distress grant to be increased to the food poverty line. The Labour Federation's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks, made the submission on the medium-term budget policy statement to Parliament's Standing Committee on Appropriations this morning. This is part of the committee's ongoing public hearings on the MTBPS. Currently, the SRD grant is just over $46 while the food poverty line is just over $47 Park says while there are a few factors to celebrate, like the end of load shedding and getting off the grey list, more measures should be put in place to assist workers.
We just really want to see in the budget next year really a shift away from austerity cuts. Let's prioritize frontline services. Let's see how to reduce wasteful expenditure. We do think that over the MTEF we should be finding a pathway to raise the SRD grant to the food poverty line. We should be prioritizing filling frontline vacancies like doctors, nurses, teachers, police officers, not management.
Some emerging businesses in South Africa's Limpopo province say they're hopeful that a partnership between the Department of Economic Development, Environment and Tourism and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange will provide them with access to capital and credible markets. LEDIT and the JSE reached an agreement to build a permanent investment pipeline that can unlock market access and funding for small and medium-sized enterprises in the province. 34-year-old small-scale farmer Ndwana Nomabunda hopes that the partnership between LEDIT and the JSE will help bring investment.
I think if we get funding, grant funding, to buy our machinery and build some agro-processing house and some bigger dehydrator machine and a vegetable cutter, because now we are using a knife. We don't have a proper material. We are trying with the little we have. Even the hydrator machine we have, but it's small. We want to put volumes.
Meanwhile, spokesperson for the Department of Economic Development, Environment and Tourism in South Africa, Hitekani Magwedze, says the partnership with the JSE will help bring funding to small and medium-sized enterprises.
We are hoping and we trust that we'll potentially get about 100 or so businesses funded. Now that is monumental for the province as a whole.
The Russian government says India will continue buying oil wherever it's profitable for it to do so in order to ensure its own economic interests. US President Donald Trump doubled tariffs on Indian goods to 50% in August to punish New Delhi for buying Russian oil, which Washington said was helping to fund Russia's war in Ukraine. On a visit to New Delhi last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin offered India uninterrupted fuel supplies. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says India, as a sovereign state, conducts foreign trade operations and purchases energy resources where it's beneficial for India and will continue this policy to ensure their economic interests. And now taking a look at the indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,449 naira. In Botswana, it's 13.15. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shillings 75, and in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha and 1. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 Real 43 this afternoon. Russia, 75 rubles 87. India, it's 89 rupees 89. China, 717, and South Africa, $1 is trading at 16 rand 92 cents this afternoon. It's broken through that 16 rand level. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,211 per ounce and platinum at $1,665 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $63.26 a barrel. And that's the business news. I'll be back with another update in the next hour. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please do send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Buntle Hedbush.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Your life, your rhythm, your Africa. Channel Africa. Find it for free on Google Play and the Apple App Store. keep Africa in your hands. Connect to our website for all your news, sports, and cultural updates. channelafrica.co.za. The Upside, 1 to 4 p.m. Central African Time. With Teboholi Kuleni and Mateko Mosito. Only on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It's 42 minutes after 1 p.m. Central African Time. We're coming to you live from the Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg, South Africa. Join us on our social media platforms where we are streaming live at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube and at Channel Africa 1 on TikTok. And let us know where you're streaming us from on our social media platforms or send us a voice note. Our WhatsApp line is +27 63 406 9126. And weigh in on this Australian social media ban. What do you think about it? Is it going to be practical? And what impact will this have, not just on the kids, but the parents as well? All right, Australia's under-16 social media ban isn't just a policy story, right? It's a psychological one, and we'll continue our conversation because it was introduced to give parents a sense of safety, to ease anxiety around cyberbullying and exposure to harmful content. But recently, a 13-year-old young girl bypassed the system using nothing more than a photo of her mother. It exposed something deeper, that when it comes to online spaces, young people are often more curious, more adaptive, and more tech-savvy. The system's designed to restrict them. Psychologists warn that bans can sometimes trigger reactance, that instinctive pushback, when people, especially teenagers, feel their freedom is being limited. And parents who hoped this law would reduce their mental load are now dealing with renewed uncertainty. Does the ban actually protect my child or just creates the illusion of safety? And we'll continue our conversation with Mertha Nyamande, psychological trauma specialist and forensic psychology consultant director of Insight Wellbeing. Mertha, let's talk about the parents. And I guess we'll also address at some point during the conversation the practical steps that the teenagers will have to then take in managing this new space, this new era of being without social media. But talk to us about the mindset of a parent when they will have heard this initial ban. Is it one of excitement that, wow, okay, cool, my child can now, be protected from cyberbullying and all this harmful content online? But a matter of how is it going to be practically implemented? What new challenges do parents now have to deal with this ban coming up on the 10th of December in Australia?
Very, very interesting perspective to take. Now, the issue that is causing these young men and women to be glued onto their phones, as we said earlier on, is much deeper than social media. Yeah. These are issues to do with people, with these children's self-esteem and confidence. And these are issues that, consciously or not, as parents, we perhaps enable without understanding what it is that we are supposed to. The world has become busier. And the demands have become too much for parents. They might have to hold 2 jobs to be able to afford to buy that iPhone that this child is using to access social media. So their demands have been too much that they've not had much time to spend with their children. And this is why they are now ending up in these kind of spaces. It's like a vicious cycle where I'm not available to my child to teach them how to be confident, how to have a healthy self-esteem. I'm not explaining things to my child. Now, because I'm not available and I'm not there, I then think, okay, I feel more comfortable by throwing these gadgets and all these material things to my child, hoping that that will fill in the gap of my absence. These are where these problems are coming from. So we can't then look at the children and blame them for not having present parents in the home because of the capitalistic system that has taken the toll here. Essentially, this is what we're now doing, and we are now blaming the children for what's going on. Yet it's us, the parents, it's us, the adults, who have created these problems. Even when we're thinking of introducing the social media, it was the adults who put those things out there. It was the adults who've come up with all these concepts and says, actually, we want to introduce all these things. They're exciting for our teenagers, for our children. So we can't then turn around and say, well, this is too much, let's ban it. We essentially create a more difficult dynamic here.
Yeah. Mertha, this is a double-edged sword because we do want children that are tech savvy, that are able to move with the times. But just back to, what in your response, because you're addressing a lot of parental and family dynamics, just around how parents are supporting their children and the online safety issues, because parents cannot solely rely on legislation and platform restriction to help them parent. So what then is the solution? How do we shift family dynamics in a more positive manner to make sure that we really are taking charge in our own homes to make sure that children are tech savvy, but we also are being parents in our own homes?
So just as you've heard, our children are actually quite clever when it comes to technology than us. Hence, they're able to subvert all these rules that are being put in place. So what we need to do as families, we need to be able to have quality time with each other. As parents, we need to create an environment where we've got hobbies that are offline, that are enjoyable for the family to engage in. Because I think like now, even when you get into a corporate world environment, you find the adults are on social media themselves. So how can you then be able to justify to say, you can't do this while I can because I'm over 16? These are the difficulties, and that is actually going to cause more strain between families than actually bring them back together. So what we need to think about is more family engagement. Let's have activities that bring families together without gadgets being there. Let's play games, let's play sport, let's do all these community connection things that allow the adults and the children to be in commune and be able to communicate and hear each other. But like you said earlier on, the problem that we have is how are we going to implement this ban, right? Are we going to stop having Wi-Fi in spaces? Are we going to stop internet service providers loading these things? But remember, there are VPNs that you can just have VPN and we won't know where you are, whether you're in Australia or you're in Tanzania. You can just access whatever it is that you want to access. So these things are not as easy as someone coming in and say, we are going to ban this and you're not going to have access to this. Remember, these young people understand technology more than we do. This is the one thing that I think this ruling has overlooked.
It's 9 minutes before 2 p.m. Central African time. We'll continue our conversation with Mertha Nyamande, psychological trauma specialist and forensic psychology consultant director of Insight Wellbeing. Don't go anywhere.
Annika Longi sur Channel Africa.
Comment est-ce que les militants et sympathisants du parti Les Transformateurs ont-ils réagi face à la condamnation de Succès Masra?
La condamnation de Succès Masra ne nous a pas surpris et les militants transformateurs ont été bouleversés et indignés étant donné que le verdict est un verdict lourd, illégal, injuste et donc face à la répression dans laquelle le peuple tchadien est confronté, les militants transformateurs se sont résignés résignés de ne pouvoir pas sortir manifester. Et donc c'est une situation totalement absurde pour un pays. Et aujourd'hui nous célébrons le 11 août, fête de l'indépendance. On pensait que le verdict allait être plus ou moins clément, mais le verdict est sévère.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective. The Upside. On the Upside, your voice matters.
It's 8 minutes before 2 p.m. Central African time. Let's wrap up our conversation about the Australian social media ban for under 16s with Mertha Nyamande, psychological trauma specialist and forensic psychology consultant director of Insight Wellbeing. Mertha, let's talk to the teenager who on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, is going to realize, hey, I can't access social media anymore. I can't access TikTok. I can't access, and maybe they were not able to use the VPNs and however other means to bypass and ensure that their account still is active. What are they going to experience? Speak to them from a point of view of, are they likely to experience some withdrawal symptoms? Are they going to feel isolated? What are going to be some normal feelings and sentiments once this ban hits the 10th of December, and how can they navigate it?
Right. So, like I said earlier on, we are creatures of a habit. And we very quickly find enjoyable habits, functional habits on a day-to-day. And our teenagers have found this habit that they have latched onto to a point that it has become an addiction. Now, addiction is not something that we can easily legislate to say no to alcohol, no to drugs, no to internet. We have to understand the emotional driver that is there, that is pushing this group of people to want to be in that space. Anxiety is a big thing for teenagers. And there are so many fears of what's going to happen, who am I going to become, all this identity crisis, and trying to connect with other teenagers globally so that they can actually try to identify a space for them. Now, if someone then comes and say, no, you can't do that anymore, you can't explore certain things that are going to help your identity in future, that can have some very serious consequences and things that as a teenager, you're going to struggle most. We talk about identity crisis, and we may actually catapult and amplify this crisis to be much more difficult than it should be. It's already a known space that it is a crisis. So instead of us as adults coming in to see how can we help manage this identity crisis, we're actually coming in to make it more difficult. So these are some of the things that as a teenager, you're going to find it difficult. You're going to start to be more afraid of things, to have that fear of missing out amplified. My friends are going to know things I'm not, and that can push you into a space of depression. Just feeling hopeless and helplessness because you can't contribute to conversations because you don't think you know what others are talking about. But what we want to encourage the teenagers at this point, especially those in Australia, is there is, despite the abuses that technology has, it also has advantages, huge advantages. So we need to get to a space where we're able to balance those advantages and disadvantages in a way that is not as punitive as actually banning these things.
Right.
So
Right. We are running really short of time, and I wanted to just squeeze in one more question in finality, because, we are looking here at a conversation that really wants to meet policy and practicality in our homes. So I want to get a sense from your perspective, Mertha, what additional measures, if I can call it that. I mean, beyond the age verification and what is happening realistically, how can we actually support children's mental health and safety online? Because I think that is actually at the crux of this issue, is the fact that children are exposed. We want them to be there. We want them to be upwardly mobile grown-ups when they get to a point where they can be. But we also have to be mindful and cognizant of the fact that we have mental health issues. And this is not just an Australian problem. It's a universal problem. It's not a first world privilege problem, because the internet is everywhere. So how do we support children's mental health and safety online?
Absolutely. So this is what we were saying earlier on. The problem here, the deeper problem, is parents are not available to police these things, okay? Because they're too busy. Now, to address this, your question, the people who are supposed to help implement this are absent. So it's going to be very difficult for us to actually find implementation of this effective. Because remember, as I said earlier on, the younger people are the ones who are coding. They're coding in their bedrooms. They're creating businesses from AI in their bedrooms. And we are still, as much as we are saying technology, we are actually far behind these youngsters as far as technology is concerned, whether we like it or not. So we need to find a way that is more compassionate to understand why these kids are struggling. As I mentioned earlier on, these are emotional issues. They're feeling some kind of pain of not having mom and dad around enough to play ball with them, to play all these offline games with them, to build their self-esteem and confidence. That's the problem. So what can we do to reverse that so that parents are not working longer hours, so that things are not as expensive? That's where our policy needs to focus, rather than banning things that are actually helping our children survive. Because we may actually find these could actually come with more consequences than the element of, they can sleep better because they are not online too much. But they could actually struggle to sleep because they've been exposed to something and now you've taken it away. They know it's out there. You can't automatically extinguish it out of their mind. So these are the real problems that we need to be thinking about.
Mertha, this has been such an invaluable conversation. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. The voice of Mertha Nyamande, psychological trauma specialist and forensic psychology consultant director of Insight Wellbeing.